I'm feeling hopeful. Today might be the day I break the 2022 drought and catch illegal fish. Not because we're about to go to a place that I think is a great fishing spot. Well, the places we go, Tobes, have fish. It's just whether or not I catch them of any decent size. I just, eventually, even by fluke, the drought's got to break at some point, right? Like a broken clock is right twice a day. Suze, do you have faith? You got faith?
Yeah, I actually feel pretty confident that I might catch something today.
Oh, don't you?
Yeah. She's
going to catch the legal fish and I'm going to get nothing. Royden, are you going to catch something?
I bet
Royden, are you going to catch anything? he's really clicked into performance mode right now.
Tice, like, I'm probably not going to be fishing.
Am I going to catch illegal fish today?
Nah. I love you.
I've got two 10-year-olds and a 12-year-old son, and the 10-year-olds, they want to do a 3-day only eat what you catch challenge, and I'm terrible at fishing. So we're going to learn. We're trying to get better. Project Me, we're checking in this week. We've got an expert who's going to try and give us some advice. In theory, the basics, but in reality for me, way beyond my pay grade. We're going to try and implement some of the advice. Jamie from Fishing World is about to join us. We're going to break it down. I'm going to tell him how useless I am so that he knows what he's dealing with. We're going to talk fatherhood. We're going to explore what it means to be outdoors and off devices and connecting in a way, using fishing as this sort of central piece of it. We're going to get some advice. Then we're going to try and implement some of Jamie's advice. But it is a very expensive video for me this week because maybe little bits of fishing gear were lost along the way. That'll make sense as we go through. Make sure that if you enjoy following this journey, you click subscribe on the channel, hit the bell notification so that you can get alerts that the next video is out. And we're going to pick up where we started to chat to Jamie from Fishing World. Project Me in 2022 is all about learning to take care of myself and doing things because I deserve to be able to enjoy a full life. And in the midst of that, it seemed like a great idea to include fishing as a part of that whole things that I like doing because I seem to enjoy getting out and doing it and catching the fish and the thrill of the hunt, although I only ever did it quite casually and quite simply. One simple knot, one simple line, a basic sort of bait setup that I would buy and then into the water, hope a fish took it. Sometimes they did. But then as I started to get further into it, I realized there's a whole lot for me to wrap my head around. Like high tides, low tides, target species, monofilament, braid, light, medium, heavy rigs, jig heads, poppers, swimmers, soft plastics, hard plastics, stick baits, blades, spinner baits, trolling skirts, diving depth, action, sink rate, shaking, twitching, pulling, walking the dog, and I don't actually mean Rover, the family Labrador. Jamie from Fishing World Adelaide is here to help me make sense of all of that because you understood it. For me, that was gibberish.
Well, there's a lot to take in, and it is as simple as you want it to be at times. So there are some real technical stuff, but fishing is what you make of it. And I think keeping it simple to start with is probably the best way to go about it. But you mentioned some more technical things and like your monofilaments and your braid and your fluorocarbons, and that's something that you work on later on. But there's some real simple stuff that gets you started and really gets you hooked into it, which is the most important bit.
You should know I never do anything lightly or in halves, Jamie. I always go hard.
Yeah. So, like you're talking about tides and moons and things like that. So I fish a fair bit, but I'm also a busy person, so I like to go at the very best of times. I don't want to sit around all day waiting for that. So fishing at the top of the tide or the bottom of the tide, when there's good tide movements, they're really important. So that narrows down. If you've only got 2 hours of a particular day to go fishing, make it that time. If you're making it at the wrong time of the tide, then you're probably wasting that 2 hours that you could be doing something else.
So right at the top or right at the bottom, sort of in that space is where you want to go. Yeah. What if you can't? Like if you go, I've got these 2 hours and the tide is not that. Do you?
Then, the saying goes that a good day's fishing or a good hour's fishing is sorry, your worst hour of fishing is better than your best day at work. So it still gets you out. It still gets you amongst, the water, and you still have a chance. There's always a chance. But there are days where I just go, I've just got to go fishing. I don't care. I'm just going to go. And it's probably not the best chance, but you just do it because that's what you enjoy doing, and it's relaxing.
Well, that's cool, because I need to let you know how bad I actually am, Jamie, before we start getting into some actual advice.
Oh, in the tree. Not going to catch too many fish. Terrible.
Oh my god.
Nope. Oh! Huh? Oh!
I have caught more seagulls on the end of my line than I have legal flathead.
There he goes. That's the biggest catch I've ever had.
So look, probably the best bit of advice I can give to people starting out and in that situation is go into your local Tackle World store and talk to the experts that are in store in your area. So if you're up there on the Gold Coast, there are Tackle World stores around you. Go in and talk to those guys because they fish all the time. They know the areas. They know every species inside out, and they'll give you the ideas to the tips that you need to improve.
So the thing is, though, Jamie, when I go into a store or I talk to someone who knows what they're doing, they ask me questions like, "What's your target species?" And I say, "Fish." And then they say, "Well, okay, cool. Where are you going to go?" And I went, "The water."
Yep.
I honestly, my reference is zero. I have to completely learn. I got taught one knot, and I tied it, and I would have a sinker, a swivel, long shank hook, and it would be chicken, squid, or prawns, and just leave it sit there, and Brim would take every now and like they'd run with it. But that was where I started from. That's all I knew. Everything else, oblivious to.
Okay, well that's if you've got a running sinker rig, like a line going through a small ball sinker down to a swivel, then a bit of line out to your hook. It's a standard rig around the country for those kind of things: brim, flathead, mullet, whiting. So you're probably in the ballpark. So then we need to look at your bait. So you've got your prawns. If you can get some live worms, so a live beach worm, bloodworm, tube worm, wherever you are in the country, that's a staple all around Australia. Then you're lifting your chances. So if you've got the rig, you've got the bait, then look at the time of day or the tide movement, and if you've got that perfect, then probably the next step is look at where you're actually fishing and making sure you're in the right location.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you there's fish where I fish, and I can tell you that because the people next to me are constantly catching.
Okay.
So like there was literally doesn't matter what I tried. So Jamie, I tried cast netting, and I went this is the first time trying to get some bait fish and cast net out, and there was a 12-year-old kid next to me. Right, we were throwing our net in the same patch of water, and every time I threw it in, even I went, "Oh, that was a good. Surely I've got something there." Pull it in, nothing. Not even a toadfish that was swimming around the water. This kid next to me was ripping in mullet left, right, and center, and just filling his bait bucket with things. And then I would throw out into the same spot or similar spot right in the area, nothing. And he would just reel it every time after time. Jamie, a 12-year-old kid was just making me look ridiculous.
Well, that 12-year-old might have been doing it, being taught how to do it for a very long time as well. So, I've got an 8-year-old who will outfish me most of the time because he's always doing it. So, that's it's embarrassing sometimes, but it's the way it is.
Suck it up, princess, is what you're telling me.
That's it.
Okay, I actually one of the main reasons why I got you on the show is lure fishing, because while we're talking about starting simple, I'm doing that, but I have a list of goals and lures. I want to catch a fish on a lure, which I never have. I've thrown lures out and I've watched videos and I've tried all the different movements, and I mentioned walking the dog and twitching, and yet I have not even felt like I've come close to getting one. What's the secret to catching any kind of fish on lures?
So with lures is the real key is matching the hatch, as they say, and if you can have the wrong lure in the right location and you're not going to catch fish. So you've got to the lure needs to be exactly like what they're eating in that particular location. So if you're targeting brim or flathead and they're eating prawns and shrimps and those kind of things, there's no point having a minnow profiled lure. That's just not what they're eating. So you would use soft plastics like a grub or a shrimp pattern of a soft plastic, and then you'd slow it right down and imitate what that particular bait fish or bait is doing. So a lot of people will just tie on a lure and go, what's a good lure? And it's there are a lot of good lures, but what is a good lure for the fish and the area that you're fishing is the important bit.
So where do you order those menus to know what they're eating? So as they
if you're bait fishing and you catch a fish and you keep it and you gut it, have a look in the gut contents and go, oh look, it's full of prawns or it's full of worms or and then when you go to lure fish in that same area, you'll know exactly what you want to replicate. But just having a look in the water too, if you can see that there's particular bait fish of a particular color, that's the color of the lure that you want to select and things like that, and that really narrows it down and hones in on the species that you're trying to catch.
And do you have to ask some locals or people that tend to fish there? Is that another knowledge?
Yeah, look at what other people are doing around you. If they're being successful, have a look at what they're doing, and if you see someone with a blue and white lure catching the fish, find the blue and white lure that you've got that's the same as what they've got, and chances are that you'll start catching them as well.
And color matters that much?
Sorry?
Color matters that much?
It does. So if the bait fish, if it's all white bait and they're like a pearly white sort of a color, and you're throwing around a brown or a black or a blue lure, it's not the same as what they've been eating all day long. So if there's a school of those white bait around and that's what they're eating, you want to have your lure that's exactly the same as what they're eating.
If they're eating Skittles, throw them Skittles.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the same philosophy for my children, just to keep them out.
That's right. Yeah.
I want to talk to you then as a dad, and you talked about your 8-year-old and the fishing. What's the experience like for you as a father with your son when it comes to fishing? Sorry, I said son. I don't know with your 8-year-old.
Yeah, so I've got 3 boys, 5, 8, and 14, and my 14-year-old has done all the fishing with me, and he's off doing 14-year-old things now and fishes occasionally. But the 8-year-old he's the tragic. He's more hooked than I am, and so most of the time, if I'm fishing with him, we go out in the boat and we'll chase down here in South Australia. We're chasing whiting and squid and crabs and things like that. And so, but he spends a lot of time with my wife. Will take him after school most days, and he'll go fish for carp in a pond or redfin in a dam or whatever it might be. So he's sort of evolved into, he's quite self-sufficient. He can just take adults fishing now. They're just a means of transport for him to get there. But if him and I fish, it's usually a bit more serious, and we're trying to catch more serious stuff, and we're either filling a freezer or trying to get a decent fish for catch and release.
When I started this conversation, Jamie, I was going to say, when I'm in town, will you take me fishing? But I'm going to correct that. And when I'm in town, can your 8-year-old take me fishing?
If you've got a set of wheels, you will take him fishing.
And is he going to get annoyed at how bad I am? Will he get frustrated with me, or is he patient?
He's really good. It's interesting. We take a lot of his friends from school fishing, and he loves getting them onto a fish. And maybe when I was a kid, I wouldn't hand the rod over to anyone. If I get a bite, that's mine. But he's really good. He'll hand it over and make sure his friends are catching their first fish, and it's good to see. It's good seeing young kids actually doing something different than their iPad and catching a fish and enjoying the outdoors.
Well, that's it. And it's also when it comes to eating what you catch and just learning that food doesn't just come from a supermarket, right? That you don't just buy it from the deli or the butcher's, but there's a whole process that goes into this. And and your children
Absolutely.
are living that and understand that more than most.
Yeah. And, you know, my wife gets a bit grossed out by it, but, you know, when we're gutting the fish, you know, he's looking in there and he's dissecting and doing all those things, and she thinks it's quite odd, but, you know, it's an interesting thing for some people, and he gets a better understanding, and it's, you know, I'd much prefer him doing that than sitting in his room on a PlayStation for sure.
So when we've been fishing, do you think it helps you be a different person?
It helps me control my anger.
Does it?
Yes.
Why do you think it does that?
Well, fishing is very calming.
Right.
It's just, I don't fully know, but it's very calming. You get to like stay still,
Yeah.
just be in the moment.
Yeah.
You feel way better.
To be in the moment, be present. Do you think it's got anything to do with spending time with your dad?
Yes, it actually does.
Yeah. I'm better off when I'm fishing with you too. I certainly feel better. Like I'm calmer and more, I'm happier.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I used to get cranky all the time, didn't I?
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
I
just get stressed. I get
Oh.
stressed because lines were being tangled, and you know, like I wanted you to catch fish, and well, Royden was the same, but you were the same, and Tyson was the same. I wanted you to have fun and catch, but I took it too seriously, and so I just learnt that half the time you just are happy just being there, and that you don't need to be always catching fish, and if
just
you
have to be just feeling good that you are at least there and trying to do something
yeah.
instead of playing in front of your computer all day.
Yeah, too much screens, right? You do lots of screen time. There's nothing wrong with screens because I use technology all the time.
It
But
just hurts my eyes, so I need my glasses.
yeah,
Match the bait with what they're eating. Find the menu, replicate it. So whether it be bait or lures, to do that, and which we have. So my 10-year-old loves yabby pumping, and so we're getting the most success right now when we go to a space where we can get fresh live yabbies from the area and then fish there. And there's a lot of whiting and stuff that we're starting to get onto in those local waters. So that's matching what you're saying. High tide,
sure.
low tide, starting to learn that a little bit as well.
worked out where to find them, have you?
Yeah, it's like not in the water, it's over there.
Yeah.
It's right there where water has splashed it.
Right, and even if are you finding holes or just?
I'm finding
He's on. It's a whiting. He feels Toves. Feels a better fight than the last one. Yeah, that's a good whiting.
That's a keeper for sure. That's a keeper for sure.
Go get the ruler. Yeah, baby.
Here's the ruler. That's a keeper for sure.
Yeah. Well, get him. Just get underneath him.
Underneath him?
Yeah. Under his belly. Yep, and sort of, yeah, that's perfect. It's exactly how you hold him. That's huge.
Like It's
Now
like
go
a
up.
30 centimeter.
Go up. That's huge for us. Tiny for other people. What have we got, 28?
29.
29.
With the tip of the tail, but
Alright. Oh, oh, it's a brim. A little baby brim. He wasn't kicking like a brim normally kicks, just because he was so tiny.
Oh, whoa.
I think he's tiny again. Hopefully it's not the same fish. Whatever he is, he's little. He's not putting up much fight, just a little kick every now and then.
Well, I said I guess that.
Oh, there we go, a little bit of pull. Where is he? A whiting.
Baby whiting.
Go get the ruler.
And then he's just barely 23. That's awesome.
He's nowhere
There's
near.
no way. Oh, it's such soft skin though.
Oh,
Oh, I can grab him. Oh, you're a professional.
certainly a champion yabbia. Is he to 15? Or is he the... Oh, it's 18! Times. Another little guy on. Another little whiting. Times. Times. Little whiting. Tiny. A toothpick.
Hey, whiting.
That's it. That's it. Now put the hook back where it came from. Feed it back through. You alright? Do you want me to help? You think you got it? Okay, you can't pull it through. You gotta push it down. There we go. I'm gonna give him a measure. You only got half the prawn, half the yabby. Ah. He likes to measure every fish, no matter the size. What is it?
The tip of the tail, that would be a 17.
17?
Without the tail, that would be a 14. But just with the horn, that would be a 16.
Is that a... What is that? What is that? Tobes is striking up a conversation with another fisherman, getting the lowdown. I don't know what this is. Oh, what have you got, Tobes?
Well,
Is it a butter brim?
don't know.
Oh, yeah, it looks very much like a butter brim.
Really, it's just keeping everything quite simple. You don't get too carried away with trying different rigs. If you've got that basic rig with your a running sinker, I think it's particularly important, especially if you're fishing, the waterways up there on the Gold Coast, the canals and stuff. Fishing light, running sinker, a reasonably small hook, not too big. And that's really a staple that you're going to catch fish. And then once you start catching fish, then you sort of evolve your stuff from there onwards. Once you caught some fish onto bigger fish or different species.
Yeah. Now you mentioned this about light. So often when I see the advice go, fish as light as you can or use the light rig and don't go too heavy. But to someone who's fished a lot, that means something. But to someone who doesn't, I don't know. They go as light as possible. Well, what makes it possible or not possible? How heavy the sink? So I'm assuming that just means there's a combination of the rod, the line, and the sinker is where the weight comes. And I don't have a lot of things to interchange for the rod and the line. So mostly for me, it's about the sinker. How do I know how light I can go?
So with the line, if you were to stay around that sort of 8 to 10 pound as your main line from your rod, that's you can go lighter, but that's about as light as I'd recommend. But when you say about fishing light with sinkers, it's as light as you can possibly use, but still hold the bottom. So if the tide's running, you don't want your line to be drifting away with the current. You still got to hold the bottom and stay in the area that you want to fish. So you can, if you adjust things, if all of a sudden your line's drifting off, then put a heavier sinker on. But try and get that after a few times, you'll realize in your given area what the appropriate weight is at a certain time. So that's when people say fish light, is mainly on that sinker.
So if the line is going with the current, that you're too light.
Yeah, too light.
Okay.
So you still got to hold the bottom. So you've got to get that right amount of weight to hold the bottom, but not too heavy that the fish feels too much resistance, if you know what I mean.
I'm glad we had a context for this, because otherwise I'd walk away with the advice of hold the bottom, and I would think about it something completely different than what we're talking about. He said, grab your butt, and that's how you're going to catch some fish. But hold the bottom. Stick it as heavy as you can so it's not being taken by the current, which is something I'm not doing. I am fishing too light by the sounds of things, and lately it's just, so it will go a lot, because I thought, I've got to go as light as I possibly can. But, right.
Because those flathead that you're trying to catch a flathead or a bream, they're predominantly feeding right on the bottom. So if the current's lifting your bait up to mid-water,
all right, well that's good to know. There's something that I reckon I can adjust straight away. So then, because one of the other rigs, so I've got the one with the what did you call it? Where I've got the sinker, the swivel, and then I always get confused between a trace and a leader.
Okay, so you have a running sinker.
Yeah.
So if you have I have a ball sinker. So you put your line through the ball sinker, tie to a swivel, and then have, say, 20 centimeters of line from the swivel down to your hook, which you'd call a trace. Now that can be a fluorocarbon or any monofilament, but a fluorocarbon will help your chances. It's invisible in the water, so light goes straight through it, doesn't reflect off it. So if it's not reflecting, it's not spooking the fish, and giving you your best chance.
Okay, so then the other rig where I got advice for the kids in particular was to do the sinker right at the hook, just so that if it does get snagged and pulled, then your sinker doesn't come back and flick them in the head if it's close in or whatever. So for a safety reason. And so I've caught lots of fish on their lines using that. But then if you're going heavier sinkers, I would imagine that would be more problematic, being so close to the hook.
Yeah, it tends to you're trying to present your bait as naturally as possible. So if you've got a big lump of lead right next to it, not saying that fish are that smart that they'll go, that's a big lump of lead, what am I doing? But it's not looking as natural as you possibly can make it.
Yeah. So you would advise against that rig?
Just giving yourself that little bit of space between your sinker and swivel and the hook. Definitely, the hook will swing in the current a little bit more, and it will present more naturally.
Yeah. So I had fished for over 40 hours in 2022 and hadn't caught a legal sized fish. I'd caught lots of little ones, but I hadn't caught a keeper, which the mission is my 10-year-old twins want to go on a 3-day camping trip where we only eat what we catch. They saw a YouTuber do it and they're determined that they want to do it. And I said, you will starve and my children will be taken off me for neglect. So my whole mission is to try and train to be able to catch bigger legal sized fish that we can keep and eat. And so we're at this place where we I like to fish, but there were 4 of us in this one spot on a jetty, and he was casting over the top of everybody's lines all the time and creating tangles. And there was another spot down the creek a bit where I went, it's a good place to fish, but it's full of snags. So I went, you go cast over there. I was just frustrated with him creating all these lines tangled. So I got rid of him. And then probably 5 minutes later, we look over and he's pulled in a 30-centimeter brim.
Okay.
He's just ripped it in. And I'm like, I haven't caught a legal fish in 40 hours. I send him just to get out of my hair, and suddenly he's reaping our biggest catch of the year. I was a little bit excited, but also a little bit devastated. Tobes, do you want to go get the bucket? Because one of my Royden was annoying me by casting over the top of me. And so I said, go somewhere else. Like, I'm sick of you casting over the top. Go cast over there. Knowing full well that there's some snags and stuff over there, but just as long as he wasn't near me.
30-centimeter brim.
Thanks for giving away the punchline, Tobes.
He gets a
A
30-centimeter
30-centimeter brim.
Like crazy.
And then eventually, I got mine.
And
not
barely
as big.
legal.
Not as big.
It is barely legal. Toby.
Oi! Stop taking away my joy. This is my first legal fish for the year.
Wait,
25.5 centimeters, but it got there. So, shush!
Okay then. Just
Wait,
kill
that was
him.
your first this year?
Stop it!
Oh wait, this year. Oh, I thought it was still 2021.
No.
Kill him.
Listen to the cheek I'm getting from boys. Oh, I caught a 30-centimeter brim, Dad. I'm the best fisherman in the family, Dad.
Kill him.
That happens, and you got to take a win when you can.
Yeah. So should I ground him? Is my question, Jamie, as a dad?
Absolutely.
Yeah. If it was me, it's a reward. If it's him, it's punishment.
That's right. But yeah, we get that, and I think as a parent, when you're taking kids fishing, you have to step back a little bit and let them have their moments. I'll give you a quick story. We went out 2 years ago. So my 8-year-old was then 6, and my 14-year-old was 12, and neither of them had caught a bluefin tuna before. So we went out on a mate's boat, and the aim was we were all going to catch a lot of bluefin tuna. The one rod goes off on a bluefin tuna. We're trolling along. One rod goes off. Both kids scream, "Mine!" And so you got a dad moment there, and you go, I've got to choose between my children who catches his fish. Luckily we keep going. The boat keeps moving. The second rod goes off. Both kids go and jump on a rod, catch their first ever bluefin tuna. I'm sat there. Well, okay, I'm next. My shot next. We trolled for the rest of the day. No one got another fish, and I like catching them. So I was a bit disappointed, but both kids got their first tuna and saw their smile. So it's that's what it's about.
That's amazing. I always had these moments where, if I had a line out when I had my little kids and something took it, then I would sort of hand it to them to reel in, and then they'd be go, I caught this fish, and so we were really happy that then they would start to go, oh, you didn't catch anything, Dad, but I caught these fish. And then it suddenly turned to, with one of my children, we go out and he's rigged the line, he's baited the line, and he's reeled in the fish, and I'm sitting there with nothing, and he's got a bag full. This is ridiculous.
That's the way it goes, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, we've both got kids starting to show us up. Hey, Jamie, I appreciate your time. You've been really generous with us and really great with your advice, and I'll let you know how I go, and I'll touch base when I'm heading to town, and we'll get your son to take me out.
No worries, mate. That's a deal.
Ha! That's so cool. Look at them all. You can hear them.
I was going to grab them,
Listen.
but then I'm like,
Shh,
I know.
shh. Wow.
There's something here.
Keep.
Oh, I thought I saw something.
Yeah.
It might have gone
Look, they're just moving everywhere.
everywhere. People, one by one, right next to each other, they would go from there all the way to those streets, I swear.
So look at these holes. I think they're like stingrays and flatheads and
I know. Like,
Oh, sorry. I know. Dad, shut up. You're not teaching me anything. I'll teach you what you need to know.
Oh, but he got told us up a lesson.
Yeah. But like there's lots of them, not just one every now and then.
I just went here and I thought it was just nothing except just a bunch of
Look at them all. Look at them all.
That was moving, not the middle of this. Oh my gosh. Here's a giant. That's amazing. Oh my gosh, what's this thing?
Look at them.
That's massive.
Too bad you can't eat them. Not big enough to eat.
Yeah. If those were big for actual crabs, then that would be good for eating. But no, they're only big for blue soldier crabs. Wait a second. That's a blue soldier crab right here. Oh my gosh, this guy's massive. I'm not lying.
Ah.
I think this is actually now the biggest one I've ever seen. I just threw his legs up.
This is not been a great exercise for bait fishing. I think we failed that miserably. But does anything eat the blue soldier crab? Any fish?
Oh my gosh, that's a yummy!
Yay! One! Where's the bait bucket?
I don't know, I thought you got it.
It'll be over in the pile of things somewhere.
Big one, yummy?
Big one? Do you know what would be really good here, Tobes? A cast net.
Oh, okay, but imagine getting your finger stuck in that.
I can't see. What?
It's a little crab.
Bring it here. Show it to the camera.
Oh, gosh.
You lose him. Aha, he got you, sucker. Oh no, you got him back. You win.
Got his pincher.
Oh, you had to give it a good old whack. So what kind of crab is he?
I have no idea. It might be a swimmer crab.
Big orange claw. One attack claw.
Huh?
So he's got one big nipper, orange and white. You should Google it. Good. So Toby, our challenge to catch our own bait to be self-sustainable. First of all, we went to the shop and spent $100 on a aerator and bait bucket. Which is great, we get to keep that. Then I threw the cast net into the water, which cost me $100. So far we're negative $200. But that's okay, because you can make that up by catching your bait and catching fish. So you've caught 6 yabbies. Sorry, 3 yabbies, 3 butterbrim, of which were no good for bait. I caught 3 mullet, which in theory are good for bait. But we've caught 0 fish. I threw a lure. Cast the thing and the lure went into the water. So that cost about another $3 or $4. The fuel to get here, what's that, maybe about $10 for 2 trips?
Yeah.
So I don't think we made a profit. I think we need a sponsor, some cast net company, to be able to sponsor us to make up for losing all the stuff. This is a very expensive hobby, Toby. It's cost us a couple of $100 this weekend.
It's also a very dangerous one.
Why? What'd you do? Oh, look at this yabby. Look at the size of this claw.
This claw was from that yabby. I literally found it digging, and I'm like, I'll just grab it.
Oh, that's right.
And then I saw a giant claw on it. It was completely
Look at that.
massive.
The big sucker.
I don't know how I grabbed that.
All right, let's put the yabby on and have one last cast with the yabby.
Hey, if you like what you've been seeing with the Project Me videos, click subscribe on the channel. Make sure you hit that bell notification and you can get alerts for when the new video is out. Next week, we've got a different guest on, Doc Lures, who is the host of a fishing podcast. He's a teacher. He's a marine scientist. He is so knowledgeable when it comes to fish, but we're going to leave the bait fishing behind because I can't afford to keep replacing my cast net. We are going to go for lures though, and Doc Lure, by name, suggests that he should be able to help me. How do I catch a fish without having that fishy smell on my hands to start with? We're going to get his advice, his tips, and he's going to walk us through creating a plan on how to do this. We're going to have to learn how to catch fish lots of ways if we're going to go 3 days only eating what we catch. Can't wait to catch you in the next Project Me. Weigh-in coming up soon. Sleep, energy, everything from the sleep apnea and the CPAP machine is going along just roses. Can't wait to see you in the next video.